America. Joining us to discuss his State of the Union address yesterday is Angie Wong, Republican strategist and political columnist, and Robin Byro, Democratic strategist and former Obama regional campaign director. So first of all, good afternoon to you both. Angie, I'll start with you. You know, what really stood out to me was that one side of the room yesterday got a lot of exercise. The other side didn't. I'm talking about standing up and sitting down. That's a joke. But really, can I ask you, Angie, what were your highlights yesterday?
Yeah, it certainly is an aerobic exercise, the State of the Union address. I forget how much ups and downs you get on that. Look, I mean, I thought President Trump did a great job. I thought he brought his A game. And, you know, I was watching for him to go off script because President Trump, during his Trump rallies, often go off script. He barely did it. He kind of stuck to the program, which I was very proud to see that he did. He hit all of his marks. I mean, there are some really great highlights, certainly when the crowd stood up for the families, the angel moms. I was very disappointed to see that Democrats did not stand up for the mom who lost her daughter in a violent attack in I think it was, not Georgia, in a different state. I can't remember. I apologize. But, you know, I'm just, you know, I wanted to see more immediacy from President Trump. In fact, you know, he gave us a lot of his accomplishments, but I wanted to see his plans for the midterms, which he didn't really deliver on. See, I'm the sales force for the Republican Party. I need to go out there and convince my voters to vote in November. So I need a little bit more from that. But overall, I thought he did a fantastic job.
Okay, Robin, your highlights.
That's not the first time that I've heard that. Andrew's not the first person I've heard that from, that he really didn't deliver enough for Republicans headed towards the midterms, meet the so-called proverbial meat that they need headed toward the midterms. My highlights, I'm speaking as a veteran Army Ranger. I loved the Medal of Honor recipients. Usually that takes quite a bit of bureaucratic red tape. It can take 18 months to many years to be awarded a Congressional Medal of Honor. So I was heartened to see that process sped up and those two recipients, especially the gentleman who I believe was 100 years old. It was just a remarkable time. And those moments I appreciated because they enjoyed wide bipartisan support. That made me remember back when I was a teenager and these things felt more like pep rallies to me. The State of the Union address felt more like a pep rally, and we were all across the aisle chanting USA, USA, and we would stand for victories, and it wouldn't be just a partisan thing depending on who's in power at the moment. Don?
So Angie, to be clear, are you saying that perhaps President Trump didn't do as well as he could have in getting his message across to voters? Maybe you can elaborate a bit more.
No, I thought he did a great job touting his accomplishments, both domestically and abroad. I was expecting to come away with some sort of surprises. I was actually expecting to hear some sort of announcement on Iran. That was what was rumored all day yesterday, that there was a deal that might have been made. I wanted to walk away with something else other than, well, we did such a great job. Because quite honestly, you could do a great job on every single front. But until Americans feel it in their pockets, and I think, you know, he went on about the great accomplishments of the Trump administration's economy. But until I feel it in my pockets, until I feel comfortable that we have a very confident economy going forward, you know, it's going to be really difficult to sell that message to voters during the primaries as well as in November for the midterm elections. So I think that's where I wanted him to address it a little bit more, where we knew that somewhere down the pipeline within 6 months' time that we're going to see some major savings in this country.
Okay, understood, Angie. So Robin, let me go to you. To your point earlier that standing up shouldn't be a partisan thing, I think there was one specific point during the address that really highlighted this. President Trump invited Democrats to stand up to show support. I want to show that clip, actually. Let's take a look.
So tonight, I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
Robin, simple question. Why didn't Democrats stand up?
Because we're politically entrenched and have been. Look, this happens when Republicans, if Democrats have the office, Republicans stay seated, firmly entrenched in their seats, even if it's something that should appeal across the aisle. I just hate that we do that in this country because. Look, last night I watched this with a friend of mine who's going off to basic combat training in just a couple of weeks. And I verbally said aloud, that's not a good look for our party and for my party right now to have them in their seats when we should be agreeing to this. It gives the right all the red meat that they need. Talked about red meat for the midterms. That they can play that on a reel, Don, and attack Democrats. And that I didn't like. It's not a good look.
Okay, Angie, you're nodding there. What are you thinking?
I think Robin's absolutely right. Democrats did not have a great night last night. Between this and their counter programming, they did a program where it was kind of like the anti-Trump State of the Union address. They had dancing giraffes and people dressed up in frog costumes on stage. It just didn't look like a serious party. And Democrats have to understand they can't stand by their positions, their policies, and also expect, to receive votes when they are behaving like children. And that's what I saw last night with them seated when clearly, Robin's right. There are some issues that are not left, right. They're just like human beings, and they didn't even go for that. And I think it showed Americans who that Democratic Party really is that they don't stand for Americans.
Okay, I do have clips here where both sides stood up. So this is one of those moments. Let's take a look.
But in 12 months, my administration has driven core inflation down to the lowest level in more than 5 years. And in the last 3 months of 2025, it was down to 1.7%.
Okay, so that was a different clip. I was going to show that the hockey team came down. Let's take a look at that.
Here with us tonight is a group of winners who just made the entire nation proud. The men's gold medal Olympic hockey team. Come on in.
So, Robin, as you can see, the whole room stood up. I mean, Trump highlighting guests were actually some of the more bipartisan moments.
Yes, and I appreciated that. It was actually a wonderful moment to say. Like I said, it's reminded me of how they used to be, sort of like pep rallies. I will say that the women's hockey team also won gold. They chose to sit it out last night. They cited, though, that they had a prior commitment and wanted to party in Vegas. Look, I don't begrudge them for choosing to do that. I know that the men's hockey team got a little bit of heat this morning on MSNBC. I think it's called MS Now, for being used, allowing themselves to be used as a political prop. I don't see it that way. If they felt like they were being used as a political prop, they could have chosen to stand out, just like the women's hockey team did, Don.
So, Angie, how do you think this election was for guests that were invited yesterday, ranging from war heroes, the hockey team that we just saw, Erica Kirk as well, and grieving families and more?
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite parts of the State of the Union address is all the special guests that are invited to stand up and they receive applause. I mean, look, I think inviting the winning champions of the Winter Games, I think that was fantastic. Those guys deserve all the glory and victory that they can possibly receive. They did our country proud. So it was really great to see that. And I think that's what I was hoping for. I was really hoping for more unity when it came to the State of the Union address. We know that, our government is so divided right now. Our politics are so divided that it was great to see one moment where everyone came together and we were just proud for 1 second. So I would love to see a lot more of that. I think that's going to pull a lot of people, both from the left, right, and middle, to come together on these issues. And if that's what sports does, man, it did its job.
So, Robin, let me get your comments on the first clip before the hockey team clip that we showed, where President Trump was touting his achievements on the economy, specifically talking about lowering inflation. Now, the Democratic response, the official Democratic rebuttal delivered by Spanberger, challenged Trump's portrayal of the economy and argued that Americans still face high costs. Your comments?
So let's get into this. Costs were driven up because legitimate supply chain issues during COVID times. When we fixed those problems, prices didn't really go down because retailers pocketed the money. Now we're facing the same thing with tariffs. Prices have gone up because of tariffs. The Supreme Court just said that they're not legal. And I fully suspect that prices are going to remain the same. They're going to do what they did before and pocket the difference. So, just last week, we got the numbers of the economy that it grew less than expected at 1.4%. And GDP, the inflation was at 2.3%, I believe. People are feeling the hurt in their wallets. Not a significant amount, but enough to notice. I'm a single dad of 2 school-aged kids. I notice that when I go to the grocery store.
So, Angie, some Democratic strategists are calling Trump's speech tone deaf. And according to a Pew Research poll, around 72% say the economy is either poor or fair. What do you say?
Yeah, I don't really see how that really works out. I mean, of course, they're looking for anything to throw at him. Look, he's had a thriving economy. The big, beautiful bill just kicked in January. It does need some time to mature. I think we're already starting to see some level of either leveling off or prices dropping. I just paid $2 per gallon per gas over the weekend. So I'm very happy about that. But until we see it in our housing, until we see it in insurance and also Medicare, I don't know if people are going to really start feeling the savings. Same thing with credit card debt. We have a lot of that here in the United States. Robin's right. The retailers took the money. They pocketed any sort of savings that might have been reduced last year. And we're not going to see steak go down from, $20 to 10, not in the next 6 months, not in times for the midterms. But meanwhile, people are living off their credit cards. And I think President Trump and his team should really address that, especially younger people who are already entering their adulthood in debt. How can they achieve the American dream? So if he can find a clear pathway to that, I think we have a winning message for November.
Okay, Robin, I'll end with you today. Any final thoughts you have?
It's just like James Carville said, it's the economy stupid. It's the same thing right now. I appreciated the Democratic response last night that was strictly talking about the economy and prices, the price of goods having gone up. We need to do more of that, just get into the data and irrefutable numbers, Don. The numbers don't lie.
All right. Great comments from both of you. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, guys.
President Trump presenting several major honors during his State of the Union address last night. Trump recognized members of the military, first responders, and